Okay, it's Thursday, January 26th. This is kind of a morning update on the SPY. We're about an hour and 15 minutes into trading. I see this now as kind of a negative situation unfolding. Nothing severe yet, but we'll see. In terms of the price action, you can look at the 15-minute chart and see that the very first move of the day kind of failed and that broke to the downside. So there was a sell opportunity there that didn't really follow through. And then you had the pause and the move back up. And that was a buy opportunity that also didn't follow through. And we kind of came down. And now we're just kind of holding in here in this. If you look at the daily bar so far, we have the gap up and the move down. And now time's going by where, if this was going to be a fill the gap, strongly start up, that should have happened by now. If anything, we kind of just reversed to the halfway point of that first move down. And we're starting a little lower. We're closer to the lows of the day. The more, if we could take out those lows of the day. I'm not saying we're necessarily going to fail and come all the way back through the midpoint of yesterday, but at that point, you certainly don't think the highs of the day are going to be reached in any way, shape, or form, and it starts putting into jeopardy how this weekly bar might end. If you really think about it, this week, we kind of started up strong on the first day, paused, failed to the downside, came up, and if this day ends up being kind of a red day that kind of goes back into this range, all of a sudden this week is really just not really following through in the overall uptrend after that hammer bar from last week. So that's what's kind of unfolding here. Again, I wouldn't necessarily aggressively go short here to take out those lows, but it looks to me the probability is we take out the lows of this day today before we take out the highs. I don't think we're going to, well, anything's possible that we just stay in this tight range all day long. I would think one way or the other we test one of these two levels, and to me the probability looks like we're going to test these lows. At that point, you'll kind of, again, monitor how much, momentum might kick in to take out the midpoint of the prior day. But we'll see what happens. I think it's a tricky scenario, but the more and more it goes on and we can't hit higher, the more this whole thing looks to be setting up a little bit negative, not only for today, but maybe, for how this week's going to end and what might develop into next week. So that's kind of looking way ahead. We're still just chopping around in here, so I don't want to, predict, or make any high probability call that way one way or the other. But I would say we're, more or less, it looks like we want to take out those lows of the day before we take out the highs of the day. So let's just see how things unfold and more importantly, how this day ends. And that might give us a pretty good sign as to what unfolds, by the end of the week and into next week.